When it comes to wrapping a vehicle, when you do get a vehicle that's really dirty, make sure that prior to the wrap that the vehicle is cleaned and washed a day before in advance. You don't want to be sitting with water coming out of all the little grooves and all the little edges the day you start your wrap. So now when it comes to the vehicle, it's nice and clean. Obviously washed the previous day. You need to come and clean it off with your solvents, which is basically your Avery surface cleaner, which is a very good example for it. Also, what you do is, prior to your starting with a wrap, always make sure that your panels fit the whole vehicle. So, like we've done basically with the dry fitting of all the panels, just to make sure that every panel, that the whole side actually fits onto the vehicle, so that you don't come short at either the back or the front of the vehicle, or to make sure that the panels are too high or too low. Just to make sure that everything actually fits onto the vehicle itself. Then when you clean the vehicle, obviously it's very important to have a clean product, making sure that the vehicle is nice and clean. But also you don't want to go and clean the whole side of the vehicle with your Avery surface cleaner or with your spirits, and ending up having to re-clean it when you get to your next panel. Obviously every single wrap, every single place has got dust. Even though a lot of people would say that the place is dust free, you might still pick up dust. Maybe not. But it's always better to actually clean the panel that you're going to start wrapping with. So for example, we're going to start with the door. So it's very important to actually clean the door, making sure that everything is nice and clean. Can we get this thing unlocked? Also, one of the reasons why we open the door to actually clean it is you really want to make sure that the edges are nice and clean, because you can clean the outside of the panel and it will stick everywhere, absolutely everywhere, and it will look nice. But if the edges are still a little bit oily, you will be facing some future problems with vinyl coming loose on the edges. And I mean, that's one of the things that you don't want. Also, one thing you need to make sure is when you do clean the vehicle, try not to use your other hand and put it on the actual vehicle that you're cleaning, because your hand still has like an oily residue stuck to it. And I mean, that's essentially the one thing you want to get rid of. Now, also one thing that you need to make sure, always make sure, just simple steps. Make sure your heat gun is always plugged in. Make sure when you switch it on, the temperature is set to the right temperature. It just makes it easier when you start wrapping, that you don't need to fiddle around and scramble around to find the correct temperature. Now you need to find an extension cord to plug it in. Also make sure that every time you wrap a vehicle, make sure your blades are nice and clean, nice and sharp, new blades, all of that. It just helps with a cleaner finish. You can get different knives for different jobs. One knife that's actually really very impressive and very cool is a plastic knife. With a plastic knife, you can't scratch a vehicle. But plastic knives aren't always everybody's preference and something, preference to use. Even this is pretty cool, because I mean, you've got a plastic knife on a steel edge. When you have a steel knife on a steel edge, it tends to scratch it quite easily. I do like to use a steel knife. It's not, it's nice, small, it's very easy to handle actually. So I do prefer to use a steel knife. I wouldn't necessarily put it as a preference above a plastic knife, but the problem is with a steel knife, you can scratch it. Even when you do pull in the blade or retract the blade completely, you'll still be able to scratch a vehicle if you're not careful. Right. The important part when wrapping a vehicle, or when it comes to a digital wrap, is making sure that the first panel is lined up 100%. If your first panel is skew, your whole job is skew. So you want to make sure that this thing fits 100%. So that's what the pre-lineup or the pre-fitting of the material does. You know what you will find. What help, you know, it actually helps with the lining up of the panel when you actually get to the place or to the part where you need to start wrapping it. Sometimes if we don't have anything else to use, we use thinners.
But the paint is okay?
Yeah. Can't take thinners, put it on a cloth, or put it on the paint and leave it there. It'll take off the paint. But if you take it, put it on the cloth, wipe the vehicle with it, but it needs to be cleaned first. And then, you know, obviously, like I said, with a pre-wash, and then when you're cleaning it with the thinners actually just takes the oiliness off that specific panel.